This episode is brought to you by Alumni Q. For over 20 years, Alumni Q has been partnering with higher education institutions to build real, lasting connections that drive engagement, whether through events, volunteer management, or personalized fundraising strategies. Their software is designed to meet busy, accomplished alumni where they are, making it easier to connect, communicate, and involve them in meaningful ways. From personalized event experiences to targeted communications, Alumni Q ensures your constituents feel seen and valued. With 96% of clients staying with them long-term, Alumni Q's active support and responsive development make sure you always have the tools you need when you need them. If you're looking for a trusted partner that truly understands higher education and is committed to helping your institution succeed, consider Alumni Q, powering the connections that last. Visit alumniq.com to learn more. Hey, everybody, and welcome. Thank you so much for listening to Alumless for Friday, December the 6th, 2024. This is the Making Alumni Engagement and Institutional Priority Edition. I'm Ryan Catherwood, and I'm joined, as always, by Chris Marshall, founder and CEO of CMAC. What's up, Chris?
Ryan, it's a good day to be a diplomat.
A good day to be a diplomat.
You'll know why in a little bit.
Okay. All right. I love it. I don't even know what we're talking about, but we're going to go with that. On the show, we talk about constituent engagement strategies and educational advancement. We are pre-recorded today because there are lots of busy schedules going on, but we will check in with the comment section of the show when we go live. Thanks so much to the 35, 40 people on average who are watching live on Fridays at 11:30. So it is grateful to have you. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the podcast edition of Alumless to hear our 30-minute bonus segment with all of our guests. And of course, if you're listening to us by podcast right this minute, we appreciate you adding us to your feed and making the show part of your routine. Of course, grateful for Steve Brittler and the team at Alumni Q for their partnership with us as a presenting sponsor of Alumless. All right. Well, Chris, I think it's fair to say that, a lot of our partnerships are in the ballpark of, 4 to 6 months in time. They are often a part of an assessment project or a strategic planning project, or maybe interim type staffing arrangements. But every once in a while, we work with people for over the period of multiple years. And I guess a good place to lead off is, when and why does that type of an arrangement happen?
Yeah. Well, first off, it's my favorite type of arrangement. One, because you feel like you're part of the team. Like when you do this kind of work as a consultant, you're often on your own. You and I meet on a pretty regular basis, and we have other colleagues we plug in with. But in those other scenarios, you're literally part of the team, and you become what I like to describe as a thought partner, someone who they rely on for regular, another brain to bounce off ideas and to run things by. And, oftentimes they want to bring in what's happening out in other places. So they're going to use us as that sort of conduit for what's happening out there in the industry. So the answer to your question is, these happen when we established that trust and we gotten to the point where we've gone beyond the project of just delivering them the program review or delivering them that strategic plan, where the school, the client wants us to stay with them and help them execute and help them think through these issues and be an ongoing counsel to them throughout the process. And it's again, like I said, it's my favorite work, and they arise when the relationship has got to a point where there's deep trust and value in the work that's been done. So that's how I think of it.
And really, to your point, when you get to the thought partnership type of arrangement with a university, our work is so rewarding. I mean, it's rewarding anyway, but as you say, like, to really feel like you're part of the team, it's awesome. And some of our long-term partnerships provide a real window into how a particular college or university handles the development and execution of a strategic plan for alumni engagement, really at the institutional. So I guess maybe a few comments, Chris, before we bring out our special guest. So, like, what have you witnessed sort of in those longer term projects as schools work towards greater alumni involvement?
Yeah, a clear institutional commitment across the board, and understanding that it's not just the role of the alumni office to engage alumni. And it starts all the way up with the board of trustees understanding it, the president embracing it, she or he understanding it's going to need to be resourced, and then making sure that that president's advancement vice president, she or he has the resources they need to do the development work that's so critical in all of our operations, but also to understand that there's a long game as well here. And the work we do in alumni engagement can affect the short game. I believe that deeply, as you and I talked about on many episodes here. But the long game is something that a president and a vice president have to be willing to invest in. And when they have that level of buy-in from the top, and then institutionally has embraced, meaning we have faculty who understand that they play a role. We have coaches. We have career offices, student affairs, entire athletic departments, admissions offices, go on and on down the line. There are alumni engagement happens all over the institution, and any given day on a college campus, there are alumni engaging with alma mater in some way. The alumni office may have nothing to do with it, or may not even be aware of it, but it's happening every day. And when that is better coordinated and there's more awareness of that going on and what that all means, the better it's going to have as a long-term result on lots of things, including recruiting students, including retention of students, including students getting internships and jobs. But one of the measures that we use, of course, is it impacting our giving? What's our giving rate, and how much money are we raising? So that's often the proxy for alumni engagement. There's other things that indicate alumni engagement, but those are the things that I see moving when we have that sort of institution-wide commitment to a full-on alumni program.
I'm excited to bring Amy out, which I'll do. And right now it's like, it really feels like this institutional wide endeavor, right?
Yeah,
and I think one of the challenges is that there's kind of an energy ebb and flow that has to sort of be continually stoked, right? And it has to remain a priority at this most senior level, and something that's part of the lexicon. All right. Well, let me have our special guest today.
Yeah, let's bring Amy out. And one of the things I think bring Amy out while we're talking here that happened is that the folks at F&M realized that their flame was down to an ember, and it was time to refuel and stoke that flame and get it burning. And that's what we did for 3 years. Amy, I don't mean to take your thunder, but that's how I would describe the process we went through. But great to see you.
Nice to see you both. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Amy Layman is the Associate Vice President for External Engagement at Franklin and Marshall College in Lancaster, PA. And you've been working with Chris for multiple years now. How have you handled that? I mean, geez.
We had a little bit of a layoff, actually. It's been a few months where
it's been in hiatus for a while since the spring, but working with Chris is great. He was, as he mentioned, a sounding board with us. He was a thought partner. He was that expert, that outside expert that sometimes we all need our colleagues to hear from. He was in the trenches with us, doing some writing, helping us craft every agenda, sometimes serving as moderator. So it was a pleasure to work with Chris.
Yes, I'm not sure I really meant to throw a Chris, plug in right at the top of the show, but I was saving that for the end. But thank you for doing that. But in our preparation for the show, Chris was describing a 3-year project that charged by the president of the college, to raise the level of awareness across Franklin and Marshall on the importance of involving alumni in the life of the institution. Can you set the stage for the project and for listeners, kind of describe it and how it came to be?
Sure. So we started in 2021. I want to give credit to our former Vice President, Matthew Einen, and President Barbara Altman and Chair of the Trustees, Eric Knoll, for first discussing and developing the project. We were, still in COVID COVID restraints, right? In a lot of ways.
The halo of it.
We couldn't rely on in-person events, which are always very popular. We were we were toward the end, about the last 18 months of our first comprehensive campaign in a few decades. We ended up exceeding that goal by $20 million. So the goal was 200. So we were a little over 220 when we finished. But we, as many other schools, were seeing our alumni participation rate steadily decline. So we knew that our alumni have a lot of pride in their degrees, but we also want to convert that pride into action, to engagement, to volunteerism, to philanthropy, to referring the college to your neighbor, to putting it on your bio that you went to F&M. And so we knew we had some work to do, and especially with our, I would say across the board, but we also know we have to look differently at our most recent grads as well, and in the ways that they want to engage with us. So that was the start of this. Maddie then got me on board. President Altman, I was one of the 3 co-chairs. President Altman recruited Mo Butler, who is a class of 1995 from F&M and a member of our board of trustees, and Stephen Medvig, who has a very, very long title, but he's professor of government and wears several other hats on campus. So we knew it was important to have a prominent alum as well as a prominent faculty member involved in this project to get it going. After that, we started recruiting a cross section of people from campus and off campus. President Altman's name was on the letter recruiting them, which lent that gravitas that we needed. The whole project was called initially the 2021 to 2024 Presidential Working Group on Engaging Alumni. So it came with her stamp and her request to join. So we were able to recruit a lot of senior leaders on campus to be a part of it.
I'd imagine that buy-in from the top was key in getting some momentum early on. What else was important in, sort of making sure that the engine started turning early on this project?
Well, the first thing we did, and Chris, I think, alluded to this in the intro, was we had very few college advancement staff people on this working group. Mm-hmm. They were all behind the scenes with me, but as far as the working group itself, we knew it had to be an initiative of the entire campus and our alumni population off campus. So there was only, at first, not many, and we ended up, I think, with 3 advancement people by the end, who were day in and day out working on the project and meeting with the group. We had our first kickoff meeting in September 2021. And at that point, we knew, our president and chair of the trustees had charged all of us with not only setting long-term recommendations, but trying things. Just try. And if you fail, that's fine, move on, but just try different things. So we knew we had to move fast, but we also had to bring all of these people who weren't living advancement in their daily life up to speed on alumni engagement trends in the industry, what our history at F&M was, before we could really start moving forward.
Amy, I've been with you on that journey, and I could probably name most of these, but if you had to pick the key milestones and steps along the way where you think we moved the needle or it made a difference, what were the key steps, milestones that you would point to?
I actually went back and looked through some notes preparing for this, our old agendas, to remember the early days.
Amy was the most organized client I've ever worked with.
That's amazing show prep too,
Yeah, I figured you would ask something like this, so I was looking back through our rolling agenda to September 2021 and beyond. One of the first things we did was a very quick online alumni survey, and just said, we're doing this project, we want to hear from you. And it was pretty open-ended. After that, we started to work with the group and develop, what do we want alumni to do, right? What are the things we want them to do, and how do we want them to feel? So we wanted to develop something that was the rights and responsibilities of being an alum, but how do we educate everyone about that, right? So, how do we let our prospective families and students know that this alumni network and F&M is going to be there for you, beyond 4 years. How do we, let alumni know that you're part of something bigger than you are? How do we work with faculty and staff to educate them on the importance of philanthropy, why we need philanthropy, why we need alumni to be engaged with us in general? So we developed a couple of things. One was an alumni banner project, which I would be thrilled to talk about in detail. We developed.
Don't spend a second on that, because that is an important one. Don't give us the 3-year version. Give us the 3-minute version.
3-minute version is, I think this was Stephen Medvick's idea. Yeah. If you've been driving around a community, you might see on a telephone pole military recognition of people who have served, at various points.
Yeah.
So we adopted that model and highlighted and still highlight alumni from various walks of life, what they've done in their careers or in their communities. And I don't have the number right now, but we have well over 40 banners on campus that show. And initially we were going to do kind of the most distinguished people and the most people name recognition folks, but we knew that our prospective students were going to see this, and our young alumni, and would some of those be too far, too far of a reach for them? So we definitely have some young alumni who are on banners. It's really exciting, and there's things I'll talk about banners if we have more time later.
And the diplomat reference, Ryan, I made at the beginning, is that F&M's mascot are the diplomats. And the president started saying it's a good day to be a diplomat. And then the slogan, Amy, that we used on the banners were
diplomats forever.
Forever.
So, and we started weaving that into convocation speeches and letters from the president and all that whole notion of you're part of something bigger than yourself. We also did an alumni survey, and the last big project was an alumni engagement toolkit. Right now, it's primarily focused for faculty and staff use, like how to engage alumni, why to engage alumni. We'll give you a free gift if you tell us an alum is coming to campus, especially in advance. We're working on that part now. But in some cases, we've been able to develop a full day of activities just by knowing that person's coming to campus, right? Oh, this is someone we've been trying to get to. It might involve meeting with more people than just speaking in that one class. It might end up meeting with the president, or taking a gift officer meeting, or meeting with coaches or other student groups. So that's the nice carrot we have as part of the toolkit is, hey, work with us and we'll let you give this gift to the speaker.
That's awesome to help empower, colleagues around campus, and also set something of a set the table with how you're providing resources, right? And how and when, so that there's expectations management. I often work with schools who sort of get asked for stuff. The alumni team's always seen as the team with resources, but they don't necessarily see themselves that way, and there's a disconnect.
Right.
So it sounds like you really kind of created some synergies early on that created momentum. Sort of now that we're a few years down the road, looking backwards towards, is there anything that you would do differently, and what do you think has been some of the most led to the success of the initiative to date? Sort of a
sure. I think that we tried something new with our alumni survey that in theory was going to work really well. But we weren't able to compare our data as much with peer schools as we thought we might be able to, just because of the way we had historically done our alumni survey over, every 4 years for the last several years. I'm trying to think what else. We also, the banners. We did work, and we did meet with our facilities department before we started, but we should have had a closer relationship with our facilities department the whole way. because initially our light posts aren't as sturdy as they look. And we had a banner of the face of the person on one side of the post and Diplomats Forever on the other side of the post, which apparently turns a light post into a wind sail during storms and things. And so we've been working with them very closely in the last 6 months, trying to find some good solutions to still accomplish our goals. So that work is ongoing, but yeah, we didn't calculate that banners would become sales and problematic.
I think we can talk about this publicly, Amy. The other thing about the banners was that we knew that there was starting to show and there's some great stories, some anecdotes about how we knew the banners were having an impact, right? But
Right.
one of them was they started to disappear.
Oh, yes.
They were being co-opted and hung in dorm rooms, apparently.
Yes.
Across campus.
That must mean they're pretty cool,
Exactly
Yeah.
right. Exactly. That's what we tested.
Maybe that's even should be part of the strategy. Is like
we actually
continuing
had that as one of the
more
metrics.
to put
What
up.
percent of our banners are getting stolen?
Yeah, that's like a metric. You're right. And we started creating print, like paper versions of the banners that we now distribute at the final walk at commencement, and they're very popular. So yeah, it's because of the wind issue. We have fewer Diplomats Forever banners up on campus as we transition to a new system. So we haven't had as many stolen this semester, but they are very, very popular, and our student groups are asking for them for their group photos. So that works out well for everybody.
In my head, like the banners is such a cool idea, and I was thinking, like, what's another comparable idea? I was thinking like playing cards are kind of an interesting idea, an annual new set of alumni playing cards or something.
Yeah.
Like that.
I could see games being created out of those cards. Certain games.
Yeah.
That's so much fun. But Amy, so faculty involvement, of course, you mentioned this from the onset that you wanted to make sure that there was sort of a beloved faculty member, as part of the steering committee. Really important for any university-wide alumni engagement initiative. But maybe sort of expand on the involvement that faculty had in the project so far.
So we had, I think, about 7 or 8 faculty who served on the actual committee, the working group, over the last 3 years, as well as 2 administrative coordinators. And I would stress using the administrative coordinators in any project in which you need faculty involved. So we had some great dedicated faculty themselves, but we also had the administrative coordinators who could go out and talk to other administrative coordinators very easily and make sure messages go kind of throughout those departments. In our next phase, so we've been on a bit of a hiatus with this project since May. My 2 co-chairs were very, very involved in the presidential election in different ways. One as a faculty member and one as part of his career. So, and our office was slammed with tons of activities this fall, including our True Blue Weekend signature event. So we took a pause, took a beat. Going forward, we will be taking something that I referred to earlier, the toolkit, how to engage, out to campus, right? So to the faculty meetings, chairs meetings, and to some department meetings, and really answering questions. When we've done this in a small way, people are like, "Oh, really? You'll do that?" And it's like, "Yes, of course we will, and we'll be your partner in engaging alums."
The other thing I'll add on to that is that there was the chair group, which was a trustee, faculty member, and Amy. That faculty member, Dr. Stephen Medvick, 30-year faculty member at FNM.
I won't quote a number, but a long time. Yes,
it's a lot. Yeah, and well-known, beloved, that iconic faculty member who gets it and understands advancement, understands alumni engagement. So that was key, right? You needed that person, and Stephen is that, and he's a wonderful guy. In fact, Ryan, you met him last year. He came to the CMEC holiday party at our home. He's that cool of a guy. He and his wife got in the car and drove out. We had a steering committee of about 15 people that had faculty, and we had a working group that got even bigger, which changed every year new faculty members coming on from different parts of the college. So that all helped it. And that structure that we had in place. So my role, and I know, Ryan, your next question to me is what, okay, share a bit about my work, but that was it. It was helping to create those groups. Amy, I think you and I met at least once a week, often 2 or 3 times a week. We'd be on calls with various groups. Sometimes you and I preparing for, sometimes with just the chairs, sometimes, but then we had monthly calls with the steering committee and the full working group. And it was, busy time, but it was also, again, it's that moment, Ryan, where you feel like you're part of the team and that you're in on it. And you sort of understand. And Amy was so organized with this rolling agenda that we could put things on it in a shared document, Ryan. We didn't put attachments. We used the shared document. He gives me a hard time about this all the time, Amy.
It was an adjustment for you, Chris.
It was. It worked. Thanks, Amy. Thanks.
Perfect.
I appreciate it.
Ongoing adjustment here for Chris. Yeah.
The other 2 other things I'll add here to it, though, Ryan, is that what I was always amazed, Amy, and I think we talked about it along the way, is that people always showed up. I mean, we'd have the monthly meeting, and there'd be a screen full of 25, 30 people who were like leaned in and ready to do this. And we had students, we had young alums. We had one guy who was a physician in his rotations, and he would leave and come on the calls in the middle of a young alum. It was amazing. So it was just really cool to have how people showed up with my next one. And the other one was, Amy, this kind of emerged in year 2 and certainly year 3, is that we realized that there were other things going on at the college that overlap. They were sort of overlapping. I'm looking at your wall, the window behind you, Amy, as one example, that kind of a visual memory, because that blue streak you see along the outside wall was a wrap that got put around what is an admissions welcome center.
Alumni and admissions welcome center.
That's right.
It
so
is
this
the
whole thing was
Lombardo
being developed while we were doing this task force. We realized there's an overlap here. So there's multiple initiatives that we all sort of, it's one of those places that it's too small of it's firstly big and complex, lots going on, but it's too small of a place for us to have these silos and independent thinking. So we started to really force ourselves to blend these things together. And I think that was part of the success of the project as we got to the end of the 3rd year of it. So, but I'm curious. So I know a little bit of a hiatus, Amy, and I know we talked about some of the metrics and how we're going to measure success here. Yeah. But give me your early. I mean, we've crossed there's no finish line on this one, right? But we've sort of finished the project as we had set it up originally, a 3-year project on it. And it's going to have other phases and iterations as we go. But give me your early take on, has it stuck? Is it too soon to tell? What are you going to use to measure whether or not it's going to have an impact and it'll work in the long run?
Yeah. I think, obviously long run, we'll look at the case metrics, which we know aren't, causal necessarily, but if those are going the right direction, I think we can declare some wins, or the people in our seats 20 years from now, hopefully have a really engaged population. I think we've made some good strides on campus with our faculty partners and our staff partners. So it used to be, your advancement, you're across the pike. So Harrisburg Pike goes right by my office here. And people are now understanding that it behooves them to engage alumni and to work with us when they do so. So I think those are wins. I think the stolen banners are wins. Repeating the mantra, diplomats forever. A separate project. We kind of on the edge again of what we were working on is our alumni board sponsored a giant ampersand sculpture, which Chris, I'm not even sure if you've seen yet.
I saw the drawings. I never saw the final.
Yeah, it's here. It was here before Jubilee weekend. And, it's that place like Penn State has the lion where everyone takes their picture. This is becoming that place. So
very cool. Love it.
There's little things like that. We had an international student I met with last year who was walking with her friend and saw one of the banners, and it featured an alum who was an international student in a very kind of high-powered role. And she said, I told my friend, we're going to have a banner someday. And so like that students are noticing it, that we're getting people from the banners, some of them back on campus for the first time in 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
it's really cool. And then we're able to engage them in lots of other ways.
I love the multi-dimensional way, or something like a visual like that on campus can have an impact, from just using the word alumni, having it visible day in and day out. Like that, it's hard to properly measure the impact that will have.
Yep.
Over the course of time.
There was a client we had a while back, Ryan, whose president would say, the community that makes up our institution of faculty, staff, and students. And I'm going, just say "and alumni" at the end of that sentence, and you'll have it'll be easier.
Yes. Well, all right. So we've bumped up against the first half of the show here, the live portion for LinkedIn and YouTube. But we'll press on with our conversation about the initiative there at F&M. And Chris, we're still in the process of sort of zeroing in what will be our new year-end spectacular episode, which will be like myself and Chris probably, and then maybe a few other special.
I'm thinking there's going to be a Rockette performance somewhere in here, Ryan. But we're going to do something special for the holiday season. It will not be Ryan and I.
Most definitely be overstating it. But either way, we're going to take just a little bit of a change up in our episode here in 2 weeks. And probably at a minimum, we're going to reflect back on a really great year of Alumless episodes and maybe think about
your show number 63. We've done this 63 times.
Right.
So we have
awesome. Congratulations.
Yeah. Thanks. And we'll have some special guests. We'll have some, questions coming from the audience in a few weeks from now. So, stay tuned. More to come on it. But there'll be no Amy guest type. It'll be Ryan and I just talking at each other and bringing in a few people here and there as we go.
Sounds like it'll be fun. A little bit of a change up. All right. Well, we're going to head over to our quiet Zoom room here, our recording studio for the bonus segment. And for those of you listening on the podcast, we'll be back just after the break. And a word from our sponsor, Alumni Q. And everyone listening on LinkedIn or YouTube, we'll see you back here, same time, same place in 2 weeks. Thanks for listening.